Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, amazingly enough, GamingGang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, September 6th, 2023. This is live stream 961. If this is your first time joining me, let me point out, super casual around here. We're just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And normally we'll take a first look at a game. Every once in a while I'll do a live review, but very rarely. And tonight is a Wargame Wednesday. That's right. We're going to have Wargame Wednesdays going on out for the next couple of months. I'll tell you why in just a few moments. But tonight, we're going to dive on in and take a look at Mark Simonitch's latest design for GMT Games. It is North Afrika 41. That's right, a little Afrika Corp, some Erwin Rommel, Tobruk, the Australians, the Aussies defending Tobruk. Yeah, I know my North Africa history during World War II, maybe. Not all of it, but I'm halfway decent with that. Anyway, that's what we're going to be taking a peek at tonight. So if you are tuning in live for the unboxing and first look, do need to point out that we take care of the tabletop gaming news first around here. So it's probably going to be about 35, maybe 40 minutes or so before we start taking a look at North Afrika 41. So if you are watching live, just kick back, relax, happy hump day. Take it easy on yourself. Now, if you happen to be tuning in 30 minutes or more after the show is ended, there will be timestamps. So if you're an impatient type and you just gotta get to that first look, I understand, I get it. There will be timestamps. You'll be able to jump right on past the tabletop gaming news. Although there is a lot of cool news tonight. I always have cool news. I don't just share boring news. Would be the use of that. But you will be able to jump on past those. Timestamps are located in the show notes, or depending on the device you might be watching this on, timestamps might be right there in the timeline of the video right in front of you. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit GamingGang.com for the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you will not find here on the YouTube channel. Come on, you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Also, this is a live show, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours before you can take part in chat. Yet another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, maybe there's something about North Afrika 41 you want to get a closer look at, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight in chat was the Motor City Madman. That's right. The Madman is back from his travels. He was hanging out at Dragon Con. Got to tell us, let us know in chat how it went. I did hear through the grapevine, in fact, I think the Madman himself had mentioned this, that there weren't going to be a lot of tabletop role-playing game publishers there. So it almost seems like it was kind of going back to the early days of Dragon Con. Because I thought, you know, a decade ago, 15 years ago, it was mainly just cosplay stuff, fantasy stuff, with very little actual gaming going on. And then it had started to change. So I'm kind of curious. So Roger Perdome is with us, as is Lord Koss 2000. It's been a while since we have seen Lord Koss. Scott B. Smith is also hanging with the gang, as is, I would take a guess, another of our chat moderators. Sarah D. is probably, you know, just grasping that band hammer, watching for somebody to step out of line. Ah, she wouldn't do that. We'll leave the madman to the band hammer wielding and clobbering. So the madman says Dragon Con is more of a fan con than anything else, but does have some RPGs. But didn't they have, like, say, 4 years ago, didn't they have quite a few role-playing game publishers starting to show up? So the madman says Dragon Con was fantastic. The cosplay, absolutely amazing. Sweet, very nice. Very nice. I always like cool cosplay. See a lot of it at Comic-Con. I mean, some just amazing cosplay, because there are actually some cosplayers who work in the film industry, in the special effects industry, or they have friends who work in the industry, because it's San Diego. It's, you know, it's a hop, skip, and jump from LA. So you see some just unbelievable cosplay. I remember somebody dressed as the Red Skull one time. Blew me away. Just absolutely blew me away. Madman says, unfortunately, Jodie Whittaker and Nathan Fillion canceled last minute. But Madman did get to see cast members from Strange New Worlds, Billy Piper, and hang on, hold on. It's this stupid thing again. Nandip Gill. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. From Doctor Who. Nice. Very, very nice. Too bad that Jodie Whittaker and Nathan Fillion had to cancel. I gotta say that strike is still... Madman says, pronounced correctly. Wow, amazing. Actually pronounced something correctly for a change. Although after the grief I took for saying, how was I pronouncing it? Phandalin? Because that's how I pronounced Phandalin from Lost Mine of Phandelver when it first came out. And somebody busted my chops. In fact, their comment was so rude, I deleted it from the first look video at Dungeons and Dragons, Phandelver and Below the Shattered Obelisk. And then, of course, I went online and I saw a couple of people from Wizards of the Coast calling it Phandalin. So that's how I was pronouncing it. And then I had all these people tell me that I was pronouncing it correctly the first time, because there was, I didn't go look, but there was like a pronunciation guide in Lost Mine of Phandelver, and that's how it says it's pronounced. So I was like, people get bent out of shape about somebody mispronouncing some fictional thing or person or place. They need a hobby. They need a hobby. Tessie Trekkie is with us. Kevin King and Kathy Evans are hanging out in chat. All right, let's jump on into the news, because arriving in Q3, in fact, I think it's supposed to be October, from Italian game publisher Cranio Creations is Rats of Wistar. And I've got the skinny. In Rats of Wistar, you play the role of one of the 4 rats who organized the escape from the famous Wistar Institute. As such, you'll have to lead your family to prove that you are the most deserving of leading the entire colony. Thanks to your extraordinary skills, you'll be able to explore the farm until you reach the pantry to be able to grab the appetizing cheese, exploiting the artifacts abandoned by humans at the edge of the wood. You'll create new inventions and expand your lair under the trees, digging new rooms and building new beds. You'll meet native rats and mice that you will welcome into your family. And when necessary, you will visit the alchemist mouse to gain some extra advantage. This game takes place over 5 rounds, equal to the 5 days in which the challenge takes place. And you're going to earn victory points for building beds, excavating rooms, solving missions within the farm, welcoming host mice, building new inventions, and claiming achievements. At the end of the game, the player with the most victory points wins. In case of a tie, the player furthest in the turn order will win. Rats of Wistar is for 1 to 4 players, ages 13 and up, plays in around 90 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of approximately $59.99. This is slated for a release at Spiel. I have also heard this is supposed to arrive in stores in late October. But you never know, especially when you've got a game that's supposed to be releasing at Spiel. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for us to get copies of those games here in the US. But this is supposed to be a I guess it would be a Q4 release then. Yeah, it's Q4, not Q3. Because right now, September is the end of Q3. I guess it's a Q4 release. So much for that. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's just different quarter. I was saying October. I did say it's a Spiel release. So, yes. So Kevin King says, anyone tell the Rats of Nimb about this game? I do like the art style. The art style looks kind of cool. And, you know, there really are Wistar rats. That really is a thing. So let's talk about some role-playing game news, because Dr. Greg Gillespie of Highfell and Barrow Maze fame has launched a Kickstarter to fund the Dragon Slayer role-playing game. And here's the scoop. What is Dragon Slayer? Dragon Slayer is a classic fantasy role-playing game inspired from the intersection of Moldvay Basic and First Edition. Dragon Slayer is the codification of the home game that Dr. Gillespie has played for decades. This is the same game that's used to create and play mega dungeons of his design, such as Barrow Maze, Archaea. I think it's Archaea. Highfell and Dwaro Deep. I think Dwaro Deep's the latest. Why do we need another rule set? Well, that's a fair question, but it doesn't see the forest for the treants. First, Gillespie refuses to continue publishing mega dungeons and adventures while being beholden to other people or rule sets. Second, he wanted to codify his home game. Those of you who have played in Dr. Gillespie's mega dungeons know that he never wrote for Moldvay Basic strictly defined. It was just the closest rule set to his own home game. He was always pushing toward the interests of BX and First Edition. So this gave him the opportunity to not only free himself from other rule sets, but also publish the game that inspired his own mega dungeons. Third, he's easily annoyed at digest-sized books, small print, unreasonable gaps in layout, and art that is internally inconsistent. He wants to be inspired by game books. So if he's not inspired and his players aren't inspired, what's the point? People often tell Dr. Gillespie how the art in his adventures makes them want to run the games, and that's what you can expect in Dragon Slayer. The old school Renaissance has matured to a place where we don't have to settle for anything less. So how is Dragon Slayer different from other rule sets? In its simplest form, Dragon Slayer mimics BX in gameplay. Moldvay Basic is a finely tuned machine. It's the best, most internally consistent edition ever created. Well, that's according to Dr. Gillespie. However, Gary Gygax's siren song of First Edition still echoes in our heads, and the races, classes, magic items, monsters, and spell drip with texture and flavor for fantasy campaigns. Having said that, Dragon Slayer uses the engine of BX with the Chrome of first edition. So what does that mean? It means the combat engine, casting, and initiative reflect the former, and the cool stuff reflects the latter. There were also issues with first edition that needed to be addressed. For example, dragons were too weak. Demon and devil types were internally inconsistent. Druids were hosed. The monk was non-Western. Thrown weapon bonuses, damage was never really addressed to satisfaction. There were a lot of lame rules that needed to go, like weapon speed factors and counting segments. Just because a rule existed to keep Arneson from getting royalties doesn't make it a good rule. I thought that was interesting that he tossed that in there. At the end of the day, Dragon Slayer presents like a honed version of 1E, but with a firm commitment to the iteration, elegance of Moldvay Basic. Think of Dragon Slayer as halfway between the two, or D&D 0.75. The Dragon Slayer role-playing game project is nearing the 200% funding mark. I think it's at like 193% last I took a peek. You can reserve a copy of the hardcover and PDF for a pledge of approximately $63, or score just the PDF for a pledge of approximately $26, because it's up in Canada, I do believe, through September 29th. Expected delivery is March 2024. Well, all right, so got to point out before somebody in chat or I get a comment in the comment section, yes, I do understand Dr. Greg Gillespie and I share different politics. I get that. Okay? So, as I have said many, many times, I am open to sharing news from people from a variety of political stripes, as long as they're not out there causing harm to people. So, just so you know, because I know somebody chomping at the bit to just tell me, oh, well, what about the time that Dr. Gillespie said this? Don't know what to tell you. Gotta say, this does look pretty interesting, though. And the way it's being presented, kind of, you know, the BX rules with that first edition Chrome, which I gotta admit, old school essentials, you know, advanced fantasy, that's what that is, right? So, but, you know, Gillespie's really well known for some pretty awesome mega dungeons. So I'd be kind of curious. All right, so Kevin R. Smith is hanging with us. So Tessie Trekkie says, wait, why is a non-Western monk an issue? I don't know. I would have thought I would have been a non-Eastern monk. Wouldn't you think that would be it? Kevin says, I looked at the Kickstarter spiel that you're reading for this, but I was put off by the fact that we can't take a look at a single mechanic. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you think about it, I can picture Moldvay, yeah, D&D. So, yes, I know. Hey, I just wanted to share the news piece. Kevin R. Smith says, I never heard anything about this guy's politics. I have heard some stuff, but, you know, like I said, I'm sure he and I have different politics, but still, that does not stop me from sharing news about people's games. So it happens. So Madman says South Detroit is Windsor, Canada. I must have missed where that's coming from. Oh, okay. So they're singing too. I don't stop believing. There you go. Little Journey, huh? All right. Okay, everybody. Moving right along. Chthonstone Games, I have no idea if that's how it's pronounced, and Bundle of Holding have teamed to bring you a money-saving offer on the Nightmares Underneath role-playing game. I've got the deets on the deal. Adventure. This new Nightmares Underneath bundle presents, you guessed it, the Nightmares Underneath, the old-school horror fantasy tabletop role-playing game from Chthonstone Games. The physical world faces invasion by deadly incursions from the realm of nightmares that manifest as dungeons. To destroy the incursion, your fantasy adventurers must risk nightmarish curses, face the dungeon's monsters, and loot its treasures. Use your loot to improve your home community, making it more prosperous and helpful for your expeditions into the ruins from the Age of Chaos, where you may find items of great magical power to banish the nightmares. The Nightmares Underneath, a standalone game by Johnson Metzger, class warfare, adventures on Dungeon Planet, wizard spawned insanities, creatively adapts the systems common to old-school fantasy role-playing games, replacing hit points with disposition and introducing new alignment and spellcasting rules. This was presented in the 2016 first edition of Nightmares in the November 2017 OSR 5 bundle. This new offer brings you both editions, plus many incursions, monsters, and hex crawls for an unbeatable bargain price. For just $9.95, you get all three titles in the starter set, or starter package, as DRM-free PDFs, including the complete The Nightmares Underneath core rulebook, both in its first and second editions, as well as the free edition. The straightforwardly named Dungeon Full of Monsters, I guess there's truth in advertising there, written for Labyrinth Lord with conversion notes for Nightmares, and a 36-page book of dungeon incursions, City of Poison. And if you pay more than the threshold price of $23.13, you'll level up and also get 3 bonus Nightmares worth an additional $60, including the Nightmares spellbook, the Nameless Grimoire, the large-scale wilderness sandbox setting, Only Monsters Here, and the Metamorphica revised edition, a system-agnostic resource to generate mutations for dark fantasy, horror, transhuman science fiction, post-apocalypse, and even superhero campaigns. These savings will run through September 18th. There is not a charity that benefits from this bundle, just so you know. I have never actually, okay, I take that back. I have heard of the Nightmares Underneath because I remember seeing the cover of this. You were just looking at it. I don't really know anything about this role-playing game, though. Sounds kind of interesting. Kind of an OSR fantasy, kind of, it doesn't sound grimdark. It just sounds like you're battling these incursions from this realm of chaos that kind of appear as dungeons. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. Scott B. Smith says, after last night, I'm not sure my brain needs bonus nightmares. Thanks. On to my final news piece. Kobold Press has launched a Kickstarter for the latest in their campaign builder series. Yes, that's right. It is Castles and Crowns. And here's the lowdown. Campaign Builder Castles and Crowns is the latest installment in Kobold Press's Campaign Builder series, which takes your campaigns to new heights with practical homebrew guidance, new character options, and ready-made elements to set your games apart from the rest. All fully compatible with Tales of the Valiant and 5th edition D&D. This book provides a complete toolkit to create, expand, and enhance the kingdoms in your game, whether you're running an established setting or working with your own homebrew setting. From regions to royals, from intrigue to diplomacy, Campaign Builder Castles and Crowns strengthens and expands your game world immediately. Each Campaign Builder volume focuses on a major campaign element. Campaign Builder Castles and Crowns is the second in this series. Each campaign builder project also includes an extensive map folio with a dozen or more enormous wet/dry erased maps for tabletop play. Kobold Press has shared a short Kickstarter video. It's not even 2 minutes long, but let's give it a peek.
Castles and Crowns, available now on Kickstarter.
The Kickstarter project for campaign builder Castles and Crowns funded within its first few minutes. You can reserve a copy of the hardcover with PDF for a $49 pledge, or grab just the PDF alone for a $29 pledge through October 4th. Expected delivery is next July, which leads me to believe it is going to be a Gen Con release. Just a guess. Just a guess. So nice to see more Kobold Press campaign builder releases come out. We did take a peek at the Towns and Villages, if I remember correctly. And that map folio, that was really impressive. And I should say there is a review of that volume of a campaign builder on the near horizon. In fact, should be probably within the next week and a half or so. Joseph Quam is with us in chat. Welcome aboard, Joseph. Thanks for joining us. All right, that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, Drive-Thru RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, throughout the month of September, I don't know if it's the entire month. I think it is. There is a sale going on. It is modern era role-playing games, so modern settings. So I believe you can save up to 25% on many of those. So yes, Kevin Smith says cities and towns. Yes, it is cities and towns. I zoned. I zoned on the title. It happens. God knows, I'm only thinking about, 5 games. No more than that at one time. Also should mention, if you like this video, hopefully you're going to give it a thumbs up. If you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you feel thegaminggang.com is a valuable resource, Hell, if you just like what we do, you can always swing on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. And big thank you to Joseph DeBar and Roger Perdome, because they very recently stopped by paypal.me/thegaminggang and made not so small donations. So big thank you to both of them. And of course, thanks to everyone out there who uses the banner ads and or stops by paypal.me/thegaminggang. It is much appreciated, everybody. Thank you. All righty then. There we have it. So tonight we are going to be diving on in, taking a first look at North Africa 1941 in just a few moments. Did want to mention I was talking about McGay Baker. I think that's how her name is pronounced yesterday. And I had mentioned that I thought there was like a PDF bundle out there to help pay for her medical expenses. I didn't run across it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just losing it. There was a meal train donation, like page set up. So what I did is I went and put that link in last night's show notes. So over on YouTube, we are on YouTube here. Over on the YouTube, the YouTube, not the boob tube, the YouTube. So last night's show, I did put that link. I could have swore I saw that there was a role-playing game PDF bundle. I guess not. Guess there was not. Must be cracking up. I'm getting old, imagining things. All right, so we're going to be diving on into North Africa 1941 in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
2 minutes to go to the snack bar for a quick refresher before showtime. No crowds to buck, just go get it. You'll be sorry you missed your chance to enjoy some of the many tempting goodies waiting for you. Stretch your legs now while the stretching's good. There's still time to get a mouth-watering hot dog, a sparkling ice-cold soda, assorted flavors of ice cream, all kinds of candy, the most delicious steaming hot coffee you ever drank, and freshly popped popcorn piping hot. Make a beeline for the snack bar right now to quench your thirst.
Can't get enough Super Sugar Crisp.
I'll get Sugar Bear with my blob traption.
Love the taste of Super Sugar Crisp. Who's giving us Super Sugar Crisp?
The blob, Sugar Bear.
And my blob traption.
Try this switch, Blob.
Smart thinking, Sugar Bear.
Smart thinking to have a Sugar Bear breakfast every morning, featuring vitamin-fortified Post Super Sugar Crisp. The taste to put a smile on your face.
Wilkins Instant Coffee soothes the headaches of life.
I don't have any headaches.
Care for cream and sugar?
And now, here comes Big Bruiser with light flashing. There's the wreck. That Big Bruiser up to it. This lever puts the power winch into action. And Big Bruiser does it again. Comes with jack, tools, fender, and spare tire to repair the wreck. Pickup truck included, too. Get battery-powered Big Bruiser by Marks.
Yes, that was yesterday's intermission. Damn it. It's funny. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it and I'm like, Wait a second, didn't I swap it out for tonight's? Is that the one I shared last night? And I'm watching it and I'm like, I don't know. Is that the one from last night? And then we got to the big bruiser or whatever. And I'm like, ah, shit. I'm like, damn it, it is from last night. Crap. So Sarah D said, the good news is tomorrow's intermission is good to go. Actually, tomorrow's and next Tuesdays and next Wednesdays. That was another reason why I'm sitting there like, wait a second, is this last night? Wait a sec, because I just did 3 of them today, put 3 new ones together. So just like, Kevin R. Smith says, you know, they thought there was a charity bundle somewhere too. So we're both hallucinating. And I guess Tessie Trekkie says, yay, mass hysteria. Jason Mountain's with us in chat asking, is North Africa 41 a remake of the famous epic campaign game that can last days? I don't know if it's a remake, to be honest. But I do understand that scenarios can run like 12 hours. Speaking of North Africa 41, yes, that's what we're taking a look at tonight. It is from GMT Games, designed by Mark Simonitch, with art and graphic design provided by Antonis Karadis. That's the cover artwork. And Mark Simonitch. The game is for 2 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 3 to 12 hours, which is going to depend on the scenario. Does carry an MSRP of $65. It is out now. So let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got North Africa 41. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shrink wrap off. Let's get rid of that. It's not going to cut down on too much glare because there is a bit of a sheen to the GMT Games boxes, but I might cut down a little bit on it. So do want to mention that the fine folks over at GMT Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, it's very important that you know that. So let's take a look at the back here. North Africa 41 is a game that represents the campaign in North Africa from Rommel's first offensive in March 1941 to December 1941. During that period, Rommel's forces dashed across Cernacia. I am not sure if that's how it's pronounced. Cernaca? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. And made it to the frontier of Egypt. However, he was not able to take the critical port of Tobruk, defended by the stubborn Australians. With superior tanks and 88mm flat guns used as anti-tank weapons, the Axis forces successfully fought off 2 counterattacks from the east. The Allied operations called Brevity and Battle Axe. Later in the year, before Rommel could make his final big assault against Tobruk, the Allies launched Operation Crusader that forced the Axis forces to retreat back to their original starting positions at Aguila. North Africa 41 allows players to study the campaign and refight it with their own strategies. This game includes a detailed map of the Western Desert and a meticulously researched order of battle. Game uses the simple move, fight, supply game system developed in Normandy 44 and Holland 44. Important elements like supply, troop quality, tank quality, artillery support, and command and control are all reflected in the game. So it says there are 3 scenarios: the campaign game, Enter Rommel, and Crusader. Tessie Trekkie says, Rats of Tobruk. Their great uncle was there. Bad times indeed. So we have our rules of play. We got a little playbook. I wasn't expecting that. So let's take a look at the rule book. North Africa 41 is a game covering the war in North Africa. Well, isn't that a shocker? From the time of Rommel's first offensive to the end of 1941. Because after that point, it's pretty much just a losing game of attrition for the Afrika Corp. So we get our sequence of play outline. We have a preparation phase, action phase, supply attrition phase, victory point phase. So then we also have action impulses. So for the allied player, they have the allied initial phase, movement phase, combat phase, recovery phase, supply phase, and delay phase. And then the Axis player will have the same identical turn, except they do not have rail movement. So we got stacking limits. Stacking limit for both sides is 5 stacking points. Just kind of curious where the stacking points. Oh, it says, okay, so the stacking point value of most units is indicated with a number between 0 and 2 in a black box. Any number of units with a stacking value of 0 may stack in a hex. In a hex? The hell? And Darius Termina is with us in chat. Welcome aboard. So the white border on the counter indicates that. Okay. So you have free stacking units. All right, so that's starting to get a little complex with the stack, just with the stacking there. Right, so we've got our land movement, road movement, extended movement for mechanized units, tactical movement. We have zones of control. So we have combat, the basics. So the attacker may attack only one hex in each combat. A defending unit or stack can be attacked from up to 6 different adjacent hexes. Okay, that's pretty standard. Units in the same hex may attack adjacent defenders in different hexes as long as each attack is conducted separately. No unit may split its attack strength to attack multiple hexes. So talking about how you need to be in supply. Combat modifiers. A determined defense. The defender may attempt to cancel the retreat portion of a combat results table result by using the determined defense table, provided at least one step survived the combat and the combat result allows it. A successful result on this table cancels the retreat, the disruption, and the advance after combat. So then we have the retreat process, disruption and recovery, advancing after combat, breakthrough combat, your supply and attrition, artillery support units, and I think SPs are probably supply points. We've got our special units. We've got reconnaissance. We've got 88s, artillery groups, Dak and Rommel himself, air superiority, air units, got replacements. That's for the campaign game, no doubt. Reinforcements, removals, and conversions. Naval transport, convoy attacks. A lot going on in this game. Now we've got event tables and resource points. Wow. Optional rules. So victory, automatic victory. The Axis player earns an automatic victory if he controls Alexandria at the end of the supply phase of the allied player turn with at least one combat unit that is in full supply. The Allies win automatically if they control is it El Ahira? Yeah, and now I'm going to start mispronouncing like real life places. Anyway, at the end of the supply phase of the Axis player turn with at least one combat unit that is in full supply. So we've got our scenarios. Enter Rommel. It is 7 game turns. We have the campaign game. Just looking to see if it indicates how many turns it is. Oh, there we go. 19. Then we have Crusader, which I think is short. So we get hints on play, an example of a convoy, and our index. Then we get the playbook, which I say it all the time whenever I'm taking a look at GMT Games releases. I tend to read these first before I even try reading the rule books. So we have an extended example of play. This is why I read these first. Looks like 2 full turns. We get design notes, order of battle and historical notes. Raiding the tanks in North Africa. Interesting. Didn't the Germans have Panzer IIIs and 4s? In fact, I thought the Panzer IVs, weren't they? I thought they had been refitted with new guns. I thought they were like 75 millimeters, something like that. That's why they were such a big deal. All right. There we go. So there's the Afrika Corp. We got an expanded sequence of play. Next up, we've got our player aids. Should be a couple of these. So we have our combat results table. There's our determined defense, isolation, attrition table, rally table. Got our combat modifiers there. We've also got allied events and axis events. Got a breakdown showing us what the units are. Anti-shipping, axis supply attrition, disengagement, resource list. Then we have our terrain effects. Kind of surprised we have all these different terrains. It's kind of interesting, right? Because think of, North Africa, it's all desert, isn't it? Isn't it all just desert? So we've got 2 of these. Then we've got our allied setup and reinforcements. This is for Crusader. I think this is for, is it the campaign game? I think this is. Yeah, so Crusader, I think, is turn 17, 18, and 19 is what it looks like here. And then here, this is at the start, turn 3. So these are all the reinforcements. Then here we've got the axis setup. And this is for the start. Okay, so this is Crusader. So enter Rommel in the campaign game. Must use this side. And then if you're just playing Crusader, you would use this side. Because we do have later turns on the full side, right? So there's 17, 18, 19, which it looks like that's what Crusader is here. So that's kind of cool. We've got 3 scenarios. One being a full campaign. All right, so we've got a couple of counter sheets. So it looks like we've got a pretty traditional looking counter here with our attack strength, probably defense, and then movement allowance. there's that stacking limit box. So I've got the autofocus on here. I'm not sure how well this is going to be focusing. I was playing around with it a little bit before I started the stream tonight, so I think it might be behaving a little bit better than last time I was using the autofocus. It is a Panasonic. I say it all the time. Panasonic make great cameras for video. But you know what's funny? Every camera company has something that they just suck at. I mean, there's no getting around it. It's weird. It's almost like it's a game to them or something. And Panasonic just builds all this great, like, video-centric stuff into their cameras. And, you know, I'm not talking about, like, a $500 camera. I'm talking, like, $2,000 cameras. But still, their autofocus is... although I guess the latest camera that they came out with, I heard the autofocus was pretty good. But I don't have the money to pick that up. So that's why I'm using, this is a GH5 Mark II. The Madman says, I had a coworker email me that I was to bring a dessert for potluck lunch. I made a dessert that looked like a desert, complete with plastic camel and cacti. That's pretty funny. All right, so now let's take a look at the map. It's going to be pretty big. I'm going to take a guess. Oh, yeah. So it's a paper map. And I would take a guess. Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to have two parts to this. I would think so. There's Alexandria. So if the Germans take that, or I should say the Axis, because there are Italian forces there too. If the Axis take that, it's game over for the Brits and the Commonwealth, I guess we'll say. The Commonwealth forces. So here we've got our turn tracker up top. Anti-shipping table. Holding box for Tobruk. So some of the tables that we had on the player aid are on the map as well. So here we have this, and we should have another map. Well, you know what? I guess we have one map for the campaign game and Enter Rommel, I'm taking a guess. And then this is the same map. Well, maybe not the same exact map, but we have Tobruk on this again. So is this supposed to overlap? No, it can't overlap. Can it? Maybe it's supposed to. You know what? It is. There we go. All right. Okay. I got it. I follow. I understand. But the weird thing is, no, it can't be overlapping because, well, yeah, it's the same tables. But this is, okay. Oh, I see it now. I was going to say, it doesn't line up well. There's a little dotted line here. Oh, that's pretty wild. So you would probably want to do something like that. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there who really do dig the paper maps. They don't bother me. I prefer a mounted board, but I do understand a lot of people live in places that have a lot of humidity, and those mounted boards will warp really easily. Right, so this is the other portion of the map. Got Benghazi, Tripoli, is for supply points. Italy, looks like this for shipping, replacements and supply pool. Cool. All right. So we have got the 2-part map, which is pretty large. And we've got a couple of 6-sided dice, as well as our cool insert that we always get with the GMT games. So we have the 2 maps, the 2 punch boards. We've got the Allied setup and the Axis setup, as well as the playbook and the rules of play, plus our 2 player aids. I'll put that underneath the playbook. And that is what we find when we take everything from North Africa 41 outside the box. So once again, this is available now. It carries an MSRP of $65. And as I always point out with just about every GMT game release, that if you're interested in picking up North Africa 41, don't dilly-dally, go and get it. Because GMT Games doesn't do huge print runs, especially on something like this. So if you're interested, you want to grab it, do it now, because you don't want to have to sit there and either go to the secondary market and pay top dollar when it's out of print, or sitting around 2-3 years, fingers crossed that they're going to do another print run. So want to point that out. I want to like float something out there, kind of funny. So if you are familiar with Rommel, right? If you've seen the movie Patton. So we used to, back when I was a teenager, when I was in high school, we'd be playing games. I play, board games, mainly war game stuff. And if I, pulled off some master stroke move or something, I'd always be like, I read your book. I read your book. And it was funny. No one knew what the hell I was talking about. I was like, and I wouldn't explain it. I would just sit there. And then, some of my friends would start saying the same thing when they, beat up on somebody in a game. They'd be like, I read your book. I read your book. But they didn't know what it was. So I will give folks out there in chat a moment. They can tell me what that's from. I pretty much just told you. So while you're trying to decide what that's from, should mention what's happening well, I shouldn't say rest of the week. There's only one show. What I'm going to be tackling tomorrow, and then I also have next Tuesday's game that we're going to take a look at. So tomorrow, we are going to dive on in, take a look at the 4th edition of Basic Fantasy from Chris Gonnerman. This is now a Creative Commons release, so it is not, open game license. A lot of changes going on. A lot of changes going on. So we're going to be taking a look at this on tomorrow's show. Then on Tuesday, we're going to dive on into Barcelona from Board and Dice. Actually, this is a pretty hefty box. So yeah, there you go. The madman, Rommel, you magnificent bastard. Yes, when Patton defeats the Afrika Corp, he's talking about how I read Rommel's book, because Rommel had written a book. He's like, I read your book. And it turns out that Rommel wasn't there. He was sick. He was ill. In fact, he was in the hospital, if I remember right. And of course, Patton won't believe it. It's like, no way. Anyway, so on Tuesday's show, we'll be taking a look at Barcelona. Also want to mention Jonathan Green, who does a lot of role-playing game releases. He reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to take a peek at this kind of choose-your-own adventure. Yes, I know. I can legally say that because I'm not selling something, right? So I can compare this to a choose your own adventure book. It was kind of, it's a multiverse mission book from Marvel. This is Moon Knight. But that was kind of interesting to launch a new series of branching story choices rather than saying choose your own adventure, right? With Moon Knight as the main character, but he asked me if I'd be interested in checking it out because this is now, I think this is a series coming out from Simon & Schuster. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll take a peek at it. So this arrived. So I was like, sweet. So I'm going to check this out. We're not going to do a first look or anything like that, but I'll share a review video. Alrighty. So, and Darius Terminus says, that's a trippy cover on the Barcelona box. It's just supposed to be the city. It is kind of a, I don't know, almost feels like that French artist Mobius, right? I mean, I know he's no longer with us, but kind of reminds me of his artwork. Kind of the color scheme, too. Kind of strange. But yes, we're going to be taking a look at this. And because it is board and dice, I'm sure this is a pretty hefty Euro game. Just taking a guess. So, and Darius says, choosing the multiple personality character for a multi-ending series sounds confusing. Yeah, if you know much about Moon Knight, he's a very unusual character because he has changed tremendously with Marvel. So, yeah, he's kind of, okay, so he's not insane. Okay, he's insane. No, he's not insane. I forget the god that he worships or whatever. Oh, okay, so they're not real. They're just a figment of his imagination. No, they're real. So like, okay, so he's kind of gone through a lot. Funny enough, when Moon Knight first came out, and I was, I don't know, early teens, maybe. I actually used to pick up Moon Knight all the time. I really liked the character. I don't know. Now he's kind of like Marvel's Batman is kind of how they look at it. It's kind of Marvel Comics' answer to Batman. If Batman, had multiple personalities. Alrighty then, that is it for this time out. Another fast show tonight. Well, I tend to find that more people will tend to watch shows that are about an hour or so long than like hour 45. Roger Perdome says that they still have most of the original Moon Knight releases. I was going to say, if I remember correctly, didn't Moon Knight originally appear in Amazing Spider-Man? Or did he first appear in Werewolf by Night? I'm trying to remember. There's one Marvel character who made their first appearance in Werewolf by Night. And no, it's not the Werewolf by Night because he made his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man. I know my Marvel halfway decent. So, I got to be honest, I think it's Moon Knight. I think Moon Knight makes their first appearance in Werewolf by Night. And Darius says, if Constantine is magic Batman, then isn't Moon Knight the Marvel Constantine? Well, no, because Constantine's a magic user. He's a sorcerer, give or take. Hey, speaking of, if you have not checked out the Sandman audio, they're not really audio books. They're audio presentations from Amazon. From Audible, which I guess is Amazon. So I guess it's... Thank you. Roger Perdome says, Wikipedia agrees with Jeff. Character first appeared in Werewolf by Night, number 32, August 1975. See, I screw up pronouncing, Egyptian and, names of places and that, but I know where Moon Knight came from. All right. Anyway, no, I wouldn't think Moon Knight would be Marvel's Constantine. But anyway, as I started to say, there are 3 volumes of them, and they are they've kind of gone in step with the Sandman graphic novels, which collected, what were there, 75 issues of Sandman, give or take. I think each graphic novel collected 6, but check them out because they are right. They're exactly what's going on in the comics. So it is not like the Netflix Sandman where there were quite a few changes. And I would definitely recommend them. I'm a big Neil Gaiman fan anyway. He seems like he'd be such a cool person to just hang out and shoot the shit with. Just get that feeling. All right. Anywho, if you haven't checked them out, give a listen. Consider picking them up. Because if you're a fan of Sandman, you will not be disappointed. All right. That is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. And if you really want to help more people find out about the Gaming Gang channel, please comment in the comment section. Doesn't have to be a novella, but commenting, giving a thumbs up shows engagement, and that really does make the magic algorithm over at YouTube here recommend videos to other folks as well. So give it a thumbs up. If you have a chance, please shoot a comment. Anyway, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube. I'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my review of Heroes of Barcadia, which this is just the party pack with the 2 additional characters. But rather than me holding up the other big box from it. So if you are looking for a pretty fun mashup between a drinking game and a dungeon delve, check out my review of Heroes of Barcadia from Roll-A-Crit. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, thank you very much for watching. If you hung out live, and took part in chat, big tip of the cap, because not only are you keeping me company, you keep each other company. But of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. All right, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.